I think one of the biggest problems clinic owners face is assuming what got you here is going to get you to the next level of your practice. And even more importantly, that scaling is just about doing more stuff. I'm actually going to share with you literally what it took me to go from 0 to 10K, 10 to 30, and so on, all the way up to 100 plus K a month in our own practice. And each step will reveal what is required from a team's perspective, from a leadership perspective, to a new patient acquisition perspective. And the real truth that I find from working with now close to 50 plus clinics here in the UK is there are certain, you almost require to be someone completely different. You almost require to think differently when it comes to building a step which is here. And if you're watching this on YouTube or a video format, this will help a step from here or 70 to 90K a month. And I'll actually share with you as well the lessons I learned along the way, because there is many mistakes that were made to what that meant for my team, for myself, for the business. So trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And the first real milestone, if you're starting from scratch, is what does that 0 to 10K month look like? And honestly, at this stage, it's pretty simple. All we need, one clinician to be really good. Typically, that's the owner. This is the founder. You just need to become excellent in what you do, because literally this whole journey here, the beginning, is about getting a proof of concept. And what do I mean by that? That means if I'm a clinician, if I'm a chiropractor, I better know how to do a great day one. I better know how to do a great day two. I better know how to actually get results with patients. And a lot of people try to scale without actually getting this one thing nailed. Now, what you might see on the bottom of this paragraph is this graph is year 0 to year like 6, 7, 8 plus. That's a time scale that you can extend or constrict depending on how fast you want to go. A lot of people that join my practice speak community, they want to get from 0 to 30K a month really quickly, so they just pay for the playbooks, they pay for the recipe, they pay for like what is the protocol that we need to follow, and they just do that. So just remember, I also have, by the way, clinics who have been stuck between this 30 to 50K a month, and they went from there to 70 to 90K a month in less than 6 months. So these are just guidelines, and this is just what took me, so I can only share with you what worked for me. And also, before you get too upset, the numbers in terms of a financial reward is just a byproduct of how good you are at doing what you're doing, how consistent you are at solving a specific problem with the marketplace, and then the marketplace rewards you. There's literally nothing else. There's nothing else to that. So before we get too emotionally attached about, oh, but I'm not a scammer, oh, but I don't want to be sales. Good, neither do I. You just want to create an amazing opportunity for the marketplace for you to solve their problem consistently. There's no way a clinic can get to 100, 200, 300. Now we have close to 350 5-star Google reviews without having an incredible product. But it didn't start from there. So the first step is, let me get this nailed. And that is, I need to have me, the DC, the chiropractor, being extremely good at what I do. We need one new patient acquisition channel. You don't have to have multiple channels like you will see in a minute that you need with the rest of the scaling process. Here, you just need to become excellent at what you do. You need to be consistent at helping people. You need to be a good communicator. And what you'll find is typically referrals will happen naturally. So that is actually the hardest and the easiest step for many, many clinic owners. Um, I remember when I was going from 0 to 10K, for us, it actually took us a lot less than the year. I think month 2 we got to this phase, but because I wanted to scale much quicker, so I wouldn't recommend doing what I did. If I was to change it, I would start differently. I went from 0 to 10 team members in 12 months. And that really isn't something that I advise people to do, because you need to learn the skills of what does it look like for me to hire someone, for me to interview them, for me to run through some meetings with them, for me to keep them accountable, for me to know how to teach them X, Y, and Z. Because when you're here, you're just doing everything yourself. Every single thing relies on you right here. So I wouldn't say you have a business. I wouldn't say you have an entity that can survive without you, but that's how we start. My advice would be, keep it simple, get really good at the main thing, which means keep the main thing, and don't worry so much about hiring right now. When we get to step number 2, that's going from, now I'll call it stage 2, 10 to 30K. I'm going to reveal as we go along. Here you can have maybe 2 associates, but I would strongly recommend getting someone that does the lower leverage tasks you're currently doing, which could be sending emails, onboarding new patients, doing schedules, cancellations, taking payments. We call them chiropractic angels. Get yourself a CA, and get yourself a CA that you can learn how to manage, how to delegate, how to buy back your time. The whole concept from 10 to 30K is you're not just a chiropractor now. You're starting to build a team, a business. You're becoming a business owner. So once you realize that if I've hired and my life is going to be changed, it's not, because this person that you've just hired, they need to understand what success looks like. They need to understand what good looks like. So that's when we need to start thinking about the training. That's when you start thinking about passing on some of the skills you've had to learn yourself, how to process a new patient, how to check them in, how to check them out, how to do an invoice. Now you're passing the skills to them. I have a whole concept, we call it the 3Ds framework of how to train people. So if you've not watched that yet, I would suggest, highly recommend that, watching that YouTube video on a different note, because that will help you massively understand how to start buying more of your time, but how to duplicate what you've taught someone so it doesn't depend on you. Because that's one of the biggest problems later on in this scale is if you haven't got the foundation set properly, if you haven't got the systems in place, if you don't follow these frameworks that we teach, it's very, very, very difficult to have a great product that doesn't collapse just because you're not there. Okay, so now we're becoming a clinic owner, and now we've hired our first CA. Another thing that you might want to do is you might want to start thinking about not relying, because what was true here, remember this is a theme that will keep popping up, what was true here is actually not true here. In fact, it would hinder you from getting to each one of those levels. And what's true here is you need to start thinking about different, more diverse ways of acquiring new patients. So here you might have, let's say, your first Facebook ad on how to get internal spinal screenings, and you might have to start doing external spinal screenings. Over here, you may have just like had, I don't know, an opening offer. So let's say you had one offer, and then because you're good at the product, you're an excellent clinician, you're getting patients that were coming in your clinic results, you might now start getting referrals. And that's fine, that's all you need. Now you need the referrals, and you need the Facebook ads, and you might need to start doing some more outreach events, such as spinal screenings. And this is a little bit of a challenge because most clinics I find that we work with get stuck either in this phase, 10 to 30K, or in this phase, 30 to 50K. This one is really difficult to get out of, but I want to show you that it's absolutely doable. Because when we get to now the next step, which is, and we're going to reveal what that means, 30 to 50K a month. Again, for me, this didn't take long, but most clinics wouldn't have the support that I had, and a lot of clinic owners are not willing to invest what I was willing to invest to get to that level much quicker. So between 30 to 50, this is where a lot of people get stuck. And it's because you're not just managing yourself. You might have 2 CAs here that are alternating the shifts. So one of them is doing half a day, the other one is doing half a day. So then you need 2 people to substitute, let's say, 12 shifts that you have in the week. And things are starting to look really busy, and the whole thing still relies on you quite a lot. So this is where it gets stressful if you don't manage and you don't start thinking in SOPs, standard operating procedures. One of the most skillful and rewarding things is to be able to standardize a procedure that is done really well, but it doesn't depend on you. SOPs. And if you don't have the SOPs, what you'll find is you're just going to be doing 200, and gurus and coaches out there that don't have skin in the game will tell you these things like you're wearing lots of different hats and all you need to do is buy back your time. And we hear you. How do I do that? One of the best ways to do that is just follow that 3D framework. And again, it should be in some video that we've made in YouTube. But basically what it means is I need to document something and someone to do that thing that we've just documented. So I want to show them. So that's when we demonstrate what success looks like. That could be creating one of the documents we give to Practice Peak members, like these our private network members, is a whole SOP, a whole standardized procedure on what good looks like for us, for our CAs, from how to answer the phone, how to handle a cancellation, what is a cancellation policy, how do we document these. So what we actually find is in life, and in business, you pay in 2 things, but you always pay. You either pay with your time, so that's what you should be doing from 0 to 10K because you don't have much money ideally to invest in coaching, consulting, and masterminds, or you pay with your money. When you get to 10 to 30K a month, especially 30 to 50K a month for trying to get to, this is when you need to think, who do I pay to help me get to that problem? Because I might pay them £500 a month or £1,000 a month, but that's going to make me extra 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a month. And me understanding that I'm still able to deliver an amazing product, and you're still able to reduce the amount of clinic hours you do, so you still have that freedom between family and friends and hobbies and your clinic, and the whole thing still runs. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely doable. Now, this is where 100% SOPs come in place, and we're very, 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 very good at doing that. At the minute, I wouldn't say you have a proper business just yet, and I'll tell you why. Because when you go from this stage, 30 to 50 to 50 to 70K a month, this is where people like me, the control freaks, really panic, because you still want everything to be done by you. You still want everything to be done perfectly, and you find it difficult to let go. But the good news is, going from 30 to 50K to 50 to 70K a month, it's almost like a completely different business. And it's really difficult to explain until you get there. But when you get there, guys, you'll see what I mean. This is where you have more clinicians. You might have 2, you might have 3 clinicians. You might have a whole team of CAs. That's a good time to start thinking about hiring a practice manager. Practice manager, someone said to me, what do they actually do? Well, it depends. Like we tend not to focus on, like, they're like a business partner. They don't need to understand a huge deal about growth and scale and how the business works, but they need to understand the operations in the business. Sending invoices, making sure they keep the CAs accountable, sorting out pay structure, sorting out invoices for the chiropractors, holidays, making sure the clinic is operationally always functional, making sure that they're always looking at what's running low and how to order it, when to order it. Accountability is key, but you have to also understand this is where you have to manage the manager to start with, especially if you've never hired someone before. A lot of the high-end consulting we do, people kind of hire us and pay me money to help them build themselves as a better leader so they can lead people, and then you remove yourself from the equation, and the leader you taught leads the team. So you've bought back more time. And this can take 24 months, just to give you a context, to the whole story. And what tends to happen is when people get to this stage, 50 to 70K, if you don't have the right team in place, so if you don't have a practice manager, if you don't have a good CA team, if you don't have a solid chiropractic team, if you don't have an organizational chart in place and you don't have those SOPs, people will still be coming to you lots and lots and lots, which means you haven't really, all you're doing now is just paying for more people, but everything still relies on you. And that's not what we're all about, especially if you're watching this video and if you're looking to say, well, how do I increase the likelihood of me having a truly successful practice that, yes, has more revenue, but also helps the patient, which is the main thing we're focusing on, is how do I keep the standard of care super high, even if it's not 100% delivered by you, by me in this case. But this is suddenly when you start to get like, okay, I've got my mornings back. I don't have to open the clinic. I don't have to start the shift. I don't even have to tell the CAs to do that, because now we have a practice manager who manages all the CAs. And that's when you start to get 6 to 8 to 12 hours a week back of your time. But it absolutely, at this point, requires for you to manage people, for you to have regular meetings. That might be once a week, that might be twice a month. Typically, I do my meetings on a Monday with my clinic manager, and what we do is we look at our KPIs. I don't know how many videos I've made about KPIs and metrics. This is not necessarily for the clinicians. It's for you to make a better decision about what you need to help them with. Who needs what help? And when you understand your whole KPI structure of dropout rates, cancellation rates, conversion rates, retention rates, completion rates, things that we give these tools away for free now, because we realize this is so important for you guys to have access to if you're going to build a practice of your dreams that creates some sort of freedom for you. So now you're actually building an organization. And this is where it gets really, really exciting, because this is where, to me anyways, it felt like, wow, I have a real company. But super important. When I went from like 50 to 70K a month, and I thought that I was, excuse me, the big dog. This is where I stepped away thinking I'm the entrepreneur. And I really wasn't paying attention to the team and the quality and the standard that we were delivering, because I thought, well, everything is automated and streamlined. Within 6 to 12 months, the whole practice almost collapsed. So I went actually back to, if we were to measure in revenue, we went from here to here very quickly, very quickly. And that's when you realize that you've been making mistakes for a long time. I didn't have this, I didn't have this, I didn't have this, I didn't have this. I was missing so many pieces of the puzzle. And I see this a lot in the practice we work with. So sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. Imagine if you've hired one or two or three associates, or you've got a few new patient acquisition channels and you're getting lots of new patients, but the foundations are not right. People leave you after 4 visits, after 6 visits, after 7.5 visits, your PVA is terrible. Then you might want to rethink, are you building this clinic on sand or you've built it on solid concrete base? Because the next step is super important. This is where we went from 70 to 90K. And that's when we want to think about these important senior roles. That might be a head chiropractor who manages the chiropractors. That might be a head CA who manages the CAs. That might be a practice manager who manages the whole team. And that's when you want recruiting systems, new patient acquisition systems that are beyond just 2 or 3 channels of new patients. You want to have consistent team culture. That still depends on you quite a bit, believe it or not. So I still am involved in a lot of the hiring, because one of my biggest lessons is I'm building a house that I want to be part of, and I want to like the people that I live with. So yes, that still depends on me. I enjoy it. I'm not going to give that one away too much, but I'm still heavily involved in the recruiting. And that's when you want to have lots and lots of other things taking place. Some of you, by the way, I'm not making any claims. Some of you might not even get to this point ever in your life. If you choose not to, the recipe's there. I'm literally giving you the whole thing. But some people avoid this stage because that's actually, you've gone from a clinician to kind of manager to a business owner to now you're a leader. And that's where you need to have your mission statements. We call them practice principles for us. That's where you want to have your meetings and people feel inspired rather than embarrassed by the end of the meeting. And that's where I find it super helpful, super, super, super helpful to be able to share with you how, the good news is, I'm not sure how to say it with more clarity, but what you're doing between 50 and 70K is actually not much different compared to 70 to 90K. You actually just need to remove yourself slightly because you're typically the biggest bottleneck and just allow the system to do its thing. You're just scaling. Now it's all about just spending more on ads, just hiring more people and just refining the systems. And that's your job. And for me, that gets really, really exciting because everything is about building the systems, removing yourself away from it and seeing what fails, what collapses, and then putting yourself back in that position, rebuilding it, stepping away again to see what's changed. But here, culture is huge. So where we say team culture systems, I can make a whole another video about culture because culture is one of the greatest competitive advantages you'll see here, and it's the difference between clinics who continue going up and scale versus clinics who just constantly lose team members because they just couldn't get quite right what culture meant. Culture is a wishy-washy word in my opinion. The way I define it is a set of behaviors and actions that take place regardless if you're there or not. So what do you reward and what do you punish? And if that still relies on you quite heavily, I would say you might want to work on your leadership style and skills. Very difficult to do, by the way. I'm not saying it's easy to do. And then we get to the final one, which is 100K a month plus, which sounds amazing on paper. I think a lot of people get excited about this. Nothing actually changed. I did fire myself. I removed myself operationally from treating patients. The systems were working. I'm just excited about helping the team, mentoring the team, building better systems for our clients, different acquisition channels on how to get new patients. But this is where leadership and influence really comes in hand. This is where you've had to completely shape who you are as a person from this whole journey that may have taken you 5 years. Some people never ever reach that in their lifetime, but we have 2, if not 3 Practice Peak members now that have reached this. We call this the black belt. That's where we call it. So down here, you are in what we call base camp. That's when you're just kind of starting the climb. This is your ascension. Most clinics are here. And when we get to about 83.3K a month, that's when we call this the peak. You've reached the peak of the mountain. Nothing really changes, guys. This is meant to be a mountain. Nothing really changes. You just see giving back as more valuable thing, building something beyond yourself, being less self-centered, I guess, but for the whole organization because people need you. So, and that's really, really exciting. And the big lesson really is, oh, by the way, there is obviously another stage, which is franchise the model, replicate the model, exit. Not many places, not many people or practices and organizations reach that level. Why? Because it's super difficult to do that. Some people don't, they're just not wired for it. I know maybe one or two clinics that have done it really, really, really well. I wouldn't say clinics, I would say organizations that we've had hundreds of clinics. But just remember as well, we have another video on YouTube that we called the Founder's Dilemma, which means what business am I building, and is that in alignment with my values and with my DNA? Am I building something because Stefan told me to, or am I building something because I truly am excited that this gives me energy? It's aligned with my values, and therefore I feel super energized every single day when I wake up, as opposed to people saying to me, I think I'm just going to close my business, or I'm not sure if this is working, and they just feel drained and they just don't feel excited. And that's not a life worth living. You know, build the thing that you want to build, use the recipe and the systems that we've provided for you. The best advice I can give you when you're building a practice, it's all about leverage. It's just like a system. Like, this whole thing is really predictable. And I tend to talk about systems, but I think of a system like a recipe. For me is a system. A recipe for pancakes, a recipe for lasagna, a recipe for pizza. The ingredients might change, but the concepts are evergreen. It's very similar. The base is made up in a certain way, but I might add some different flavors to the pizza. The protocol of how long to cook it for is very similar. So it's predictable and it's consistent, and it's just like following a recipe. But a lot of people, for some reason, choose to invent the recipe themselves, and then 10 years later they discover, wow, there was such an easier way and it would have saved me a ton of headaches, money, and energy. So there are some things that never change when it comes to building success. And honestly, I think equally as important video for you to go and watch is, we call it the perfect scalable formula. And it just follows a principle of all of these things we talk about, but put in one simple framework. And you'll see what I mean when we talk about frameworks, because scalability is super predictable. We actually give you a free tool as well. So go and watch.